Minister Maropene Ramukhopa Makoti, Minister Stella Ndabeni Abrams, who are here present with us, other ministers that I may not have seen, deputy ministers, honorable premiers, Premier of Gauteng, Honorable Panyaza Lusufi, my leader, Honorable Nomusa Dube, Premier of KZN, Honorable MECs here present. I won't mention you by names, you are too many. Honorable House Chairpersons, Honorable Members of the Council of Provinces. I'm told, Chairperson, we may have representatives from SALGA as well. I do welcome them. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to take part in this three-year planning session of the National Council of Provinces, which is convened under the theme Delineating Key Priorities for Consolidation and Implementation during the final year of the sixth dispensation. Chairperson, I would like to start by apologizing for not making it on the first day of the strategy session yesterday due to cabinet meeting. This planning session takes place a little less than 18 months away from the 2024 national general elections, which will mark the transition from the 6th to the 7th Parliament. As critical institution of our democracy, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces must guide this process. In doing so, both institutions must ask themselves and answer two interrelated questions. The first one is whether they have, during the last 4 years, provided sufficient oversight and enforced accountability by the executive. In the spirit of a critical and democratic exchange of ideas, which is the hallmark of our democracy, we are all interested in the legislature's answer to this question. I can assure this House of the executive's continued commitment to accountability to you, the representatives of the people. Having been a member of the Gauteng legislature and the Premier of the province, I have always appreciated the role of the NCOP as it brings together the three spheres of government throughout the 9 provinces. Our diversity and unity of purpose should continue to fuel our will to cure the nation's problems and challenges. By doing so, we will honor the wisdom, hopes, and aspirations of our founding mothers and fathers when they conceived the National Council of Provinces. The NCOP continued relationship and partnership with the South African local government associations put us in a better proximity to a sustainable developmental local government which commands the capacity to deliver basic services to our people. In this context, Chairperson, I appreciate concerns raised about the need to improve coordination among the three spheres and tiers of government. This is a serious constitutional imperative. Amongst others, the supreme law of the land enjoins all spheres of government and the organs of state answerable to them, to cooperate with one another in mutual trust and good faith. The Constitution further directs us to establish structures and institutions to promote and facilitate intergovernmental relations, as well as to provide appropriate mechanisms and procedures to facilitate disputes. We are committed to honor the Constitution and have established the cluster system of governance for this purpose. It seeks to integrate the government's program across departmental responsibilities. Life continuously and continually throws citizens with multiple personal and social challenges. Where it is morally and lawfully required, so must the government's response to be continuous and continual. But it can only do so if it is holistic in its approach, which is what the cluster system seeks to achieve. Chairpersons, this requires coordination throughout the state. It has to be part of the mechanism to achieve our goals, and we will achieve our goals if we also make a critical assessment of our track record in the context of democratic, critical exchange of ideas, as I mentioned earlier. So the second question is whether the government has improved the quality of life of the people. These two questions I've just highlighted are about probing the effectiveness of government policy across the three spheres of government. Without exonerating it from its constitutional responsibility, we all know that this is a task far greater than the government, and I will seek to demonstrate in my brief comment on the land question that I'll talk about shortly. But let me share with you the thinking of the executive on the consolidation and implementation of the program in the final year of the sixth administration. Chairperson, in addition to the transformative legislation we have enacted over the years, we are now introducing and prioritizing crucial legislative proposals for the efficient delivery of services that bear on the lives of the people. We will continue to engage the National Council of Provinces, the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders for their valuable input on matters of property rights, land ownership, agricultural support, and broad economic development, particularly in rural areas. Chairperson, land ownership is critical to the realization of the goals of economic inclusion, food security, social cohesion, inclusive spatial patterns, and rural development as a whole. For this reason, we must speed up the resolution of unequal and inequitable land ownership patterns in our country. It is a matter of social justice, and its resolution will also help us to address other problems such as illegal land occupations. The correct call for the enforcement of bylaws to address land invasions must also be accompanied with measures for spatial transformation to reverse economic apartheid. In this process, we will also have to address a difficult matter, that of unutilized land, absentee unutilized land, some owned by absentee landlords, some of whom are no longer residents in the country. Our social context on the scarcity of residential land, especially in the urban areas, bring this matter into sharp relief. When land is invaded, the government and neighboring property owners bear the brunt of legal, political, and other costs of evicting illegal occupants. The country will have to find a balance between the legal obligation for respect for property on the one hand and the imperative of social justice on the other. Chairperson, this is partly why I said earlier on that improving the lives of the people is not just government's role alone. To secure a common future for all, government and the private actors should meet at the construction site of a new and inclusive society. Part of our responsibility as the leader of government business in Parliament is to introduce measures to improve the quality of legislation submitted by the executive and to monitor the implementation of the legislative program by Parliament. That is why, Honorable Chairperson, that we now have in the Presidency the Minister responsible for monitoring and evaluation that will be working very closely with me. We are pleased that Parliament has prioritized key legislative revisions as mandated, amongst others, by the Constitutional Court, particularly the NCOP's role in enacting crucial amendments to the Electoral Act. Working with both houses of Parliament, we will ensure that Parliament does not experience a decline in the processes or processing of key legislations. For example, as of the 3rd of February 2023, Parliament could only process and pass 83 bills. So, honorable members, this is one of the very key aspects of what we are focusing on. There is a serious concern that legislation is taking too long to be processed and therefore can hinder implementation. So we will be looking at measures of how to fast-track the processes of legislation. But we are going to have to prioritize. We don't have enough time to do everything. The Constitution stipulates that members of the executive are individually and collectively accountable to Parliament for the exercise of their powers and the performance of their functions. Furthermore, the rules of Parliament provide clear guidelines on the responsibilities of members of Parliament. In this regard, we will continue to utilize mechanisms to monitor executive accountability to Parliament. This includes monitoring and tracking responses to parliamentary questions for reply and ensuring that ministers and deputy ministers appear before portfolio and select committees when required, and further avail themselves to respond to motions and deliver member statements. Honorable Chairperson, the National Council of Provinces remains an important platform to address the needs and aspirations of our communities, especially at local government level. In this regard, we have introduced, as you are aware, the President has introduced the district development model to improve coordination amongst the three spheres. This model will help us rapidly to respond to service delivery challenges. Furthermore, this approach ensures that government drives development and brings resources to resolve the problems of communities in a more coordinated manner. We have already seen the interventions in provinces like Gauteng, where together with the provincial government, the Mfuleni local municipality as well as entities of government have intervened in resolving the water challenges in Mfuleni, and we commend them for that. We have also anchored our response to the floods disaster in KZN through the implementation of the district development model. Our responsibility will be to ensure effective coordination of all spheres of government to work together to improve the delivery of services at the district level and local level. We will utilize our oversight reports on NCOP provincial visits. I know that Chairperson, the NCOP does a lot of visits, and look at the reports on those visits, including taking Parliament to the people to respond to issues raised during these oversight visits. Chairperson, in contributing towards the improved coordination, we have committed to the National Assembly that together with the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, we will convene meetings with all district development model champions in all 9 provinces, and further reach out to all distressed municipalities, especially those identified service delivery hotspots. Chairperson, the President has already asked me to visit all service delivery hotspots to intervene to ensure that we resolve the problems in those areas. It is through structured intervention and engagements that we will be able to strengthen our cooperation with all spheres of government. In conclusion, Chairperson, we are committed to engage regularly with provinces through the National Council of Provinces to address governance and service delivery challenges. I therefore wish you well as you continue to plan and strategize on important interventions that will improve the performance of this esteemed institution. Chairperson, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, DP. The way you address the issues, it seems as if you sent a spy